All right. Well, before we get started, welcome to Harmony West. Laura, do you have any announcements before we get going?
We are doing State of the Cities tomorrow.
That's right.
Yeah, and then
At the Monarch.
And 11:30 to actually 12:45. We had to bump it up the start time a little bit, so we are going to start right at 11:45. If anybody is planning on coming, because a number of the mayors and audience have to get down to Salem boards, secretaries, and start right at 2. So so drive time, parking, and all that. So we're going to expedite the process tomorrow. An hour. I think we should go with that.
Oh, I'm sure you
Yeah.
can. Your county commissioner meeting, even though 2 people, Sonia and Arthur, were not there, it was still great. I mean, it was a fantastic event.
It was great.
Yeah.
The attendance was amazing. The conversation was.
Yeah, that was really good.
I think there was only one. The element of education didn't get tapped into much, but just the lines for another opportunity for business.
That's great. Well, my name is Rob Campbell, if you don't know me, and I am the director here. There's 19 SBDCs in the state of Oregon. 17 of us are affiliated with community colleges. There's 3 and 4 from the BCC, not good, and Clackamas. We all have our certain little specialties. Mine are veterans, contractors, entrepreneurship, innovation, and small farms. And we have staff support on capital access, cybersecurity, market research, franchising, global trade. So we have groups of people that, if we need help in any of those categories, they support the 19 we're here to talk about how to have your best year ever, and kind of read up the write-up, and Laura said, I'm going to teach you everything you need to know about how to predict the future. So I have a big challenge on my hands today. Jack Welch said it the best way to predict the future is create your own. And so we have specific strategies on how to do that, regardless of what happens. We're going to talk about all that. I think I have a long history of strategic planning. When I was in corporate, I worked for Northwest Natural for almost 20 years. And the last 10 years that I was there, Dick Krebs, who was a staff resource, us in the line, and I did company strategy. And when I started my own consulting practice, I partnered up with a guy named Don Murray out of Eugene, and he had the pedigree. I don't have the pedigree. I'm kind of a mutt. So he has the PhD and all of that stuff. And so I partnered up with him, and he was doing organizational development. We did a lot of big clients all over the country, but his claim to fame is he did Phil Knight and Nike. We have some history. But I've learned a lot, mostly going through hard times. Early 80s, if you were around in Oregon in the early 80s, if you thought 2008 was bad, 80s were like disastrous. Very high interest rates, high unemployment, construction stopped completely. Very much like it did in 2007, 2009. But it was terrible. I mean, there was just no business. At that time, multinational corporations were chasing low-cost labor, and they left the States looking for more markets. 95% of the whole marketplace is outside the United States. And so that just left the small business community. At that time, there were about 26 million or so small businesses in this country. And Congress says, we have to keep them alive. It's almost like, you don't let the farmers go broke, we can't let the small businesses go broke, because they're going to be the growth engine for the future. So they created the SBDC networks back then through the Small Business Administration. So we get some money from those guys, we get some money from Business Oregon, obviously our host institution, and then we have a variety of grants that we get. So how to have your best year ever. I think strategic planning has changed. When it became really in vogue in the 80s because of hard times, the Japanese had 25 years. Chinese had been 50 years. Well, that's great, but you know, with the rapid pace of change in the world, you know, if you can look 3 to 5 years down the road, you're doing really good. So, because it's all going to change anyway. You know, I mean, even your annual plan is going to change. But I think what we all need to do on it, even for your business and for yourself, I mean, you as small business people, you have to focus on multiple things because you're doing multiple things. You're everything. You know, you're leading your companies. You're doing the marketing. You're responsible for the finances. You know, you've got to. You wear a lot of different hats, but I do think everybody needs to have kind of a master plan for your life. Because work is just work. So we're going to talk about some of that, and then we're going to talk about a work plan, and we're going to talk. I'm going to give you a model to follow on how you use, and I'm going to start out with a very short video, and I want you to write down on your paper marginal adjustment. And I promise you I will tie all this in together.
By show of hands, how many of you believe you could replicate this image of Brad Pitt with just a pencil and a piece of paper? Well, I'm going to show you how to do that. And in so doing, I'm going to give you the skill necessary to become a world-class artist. It shouldn't take more than about 15 seconds. But before I do that, how many of you believe you can replicate this image of a solid gray square? Every one of us. And if you can make one gray square, you can make 2, 3, 9. Truth of the matter is, if you can make just one gray square, it'd be very difficult to argue that you couldn't make every gray square necessary to replicate the image in its entirety. And there you have it. I've just given you the skill necessary to become a world-class artist. I know what you're thinking. That's not real art. Certainly wouldn't make me a world-class artist. So let me introduce you to Chuck Close, one of the highest earning artists in the entire world for decades. And he creates his art using this exact technique. You see, what stands between us and achieving even our most ambitious dreams has far less to do with possessing some magical skill or talent, and far more to do with how we approach problems and make decisions to solve them. And because of the continuous and compounding nature of all those millions of decisions that we face on a regular basis, even a marginal improvement in our process can have a huge impact on our end results. And I'll prove this to you by taking a look at the career of Novak Djokovic. Back in 2004, when he first became a professional tennis player, he was ranked 680th in the world. It wasn't until the end of his 3rd year that he jumped up to be ranked third in the world. He went from making $250,000 a year to $5 million a year in prize money alone, and of course he did this by winning more matches. In 2011, he became the #1 ranked men's tennis player in the world, started earning an average of $14 million a year in prize money alone, and winning and dominating 90% of his matches. Now here's what's really interesting about all of these very impressive statistics. Novak doesn't control any of them. What he does control are all the tiny little decisions that he needs to make correctly along the way in order to move the probability in favor of him achieving these types of results. And we can quantify and track his progress in this area by taking a look at the percentage of points that he wins. Because in tennis, the typical point involves 1 to maybe 3 decisions. I like to refer to this as his decision success rate. So back when he was winning about 49% of the matches he was playing, he was winning about 49% of the points he played. Then to jump up, become #3 in the world, and actually earn $5 million a year for swinging a racket, he had to improve his decision success rate to just 52%. Then to become not just #1, but maybe one of the greatest players to ever play the game, he had to improve his decision success rate to just 55%. I keep using this word just. I don't want to imply this is easy to do. Clearly it's not. But the type of marginal improvements that I'm talking about are easily achievable by every single one of us in this room. And I'll show you what I mean. From kindergarten all the way through to my high school graduation, yes, that's high school graduation for me, every one of my report cards basically said the same thing. He was a very bright young boy. If only he would just settle down and focus. What they didn't realize was I wanted that even more than they wanted it for me. I just couldn't. And so from kindergarten straight through the second year of college, I was a really consistent C minus student. But then going into my junior year, I had enough. I thought, I want to make a change. I'm going to make a marginal adjustment. And I'm going to stop being a spectator in my decision making and start becoming an active participant. And so that year, instead of pretending again that I would suddenly be able to settle down and focus on things more than 5 or 10 minutes at a time, I decided to assume I wouldn't. And so if I wanted to achieve the type of outcome that I desired, doing well in school, I was going to actually have to change my approach. And so I made a marginal adjustment. If I would get an assignment, let's say read 5 chapters in a book, I wouldn't think of it as 5 chapters. I wouldn't even think of it as 1 chapter. I would break it down into these tasks that I could achieve that would require me to focus for just 5 or 10 minutes at a time. So maybe 3 or 4 paragraphs, that's it. I would do that. When I was done with those 5 or 10 minutes, I would get up, I'd go shoot some hoops, do a little drawing, maybe play video games for a few minutes. And then I'd come back. Not necessarily to the same assignment, not even necessarily to the same subject, but just to another task that required just 5 to 10 minutes of my attention. From that point forward, all the way through to graduation, I was a straight A student. Dean's List, President's Honor Roll, every semester. I then went on to one of the top graduate programs in the world for finance and economics. Same approach, same results. So then I graduated, start my career, and I'm thinking, this worked really well for me. You know, you take these big concepts, these complex ideas, these big assignments, you break them down to much more manageable tasks. And along the way, you make marginal improvement to the process. You know, it's the odds of success in your favor. I'm going to try and do this in my career. So I did. I started out as an exotic derivatives trader at Credit Suisse. It then led me to be global head of currency option trading for Bank of America, global head of emerging markets for AIG International. They helped me deliver top-tier returns as a global macro hedge fund manager for 12 years and to become founder and CIO of 2 award-winning hedge funds. So it gets to 2001. I'm thinking, this whole idea, it worked really well at school, it's been serving me well as a professional. Why aren't I applying this in my personal life? It's all those big ambitious goals I have for myself. So one day I'm walking to work, and at the time my commute was a walk from one end of Hyde Park to the other in London. It took me about 45 minutes each way. Hour and a half a day, 7.5 hours a week, 30 hours a month, 360 hours a year when I was awake, aware, basically wasting time, listening to music on my iPod. So on my way home from work that day, I stopped at the store. I picked up the first 33 CDs in the Pimsleur German language program, ripped them and put them onto my iPod. But I didn't stop there. Because the truth of the matter is, I'm an undisciplined person. And I knew that at some point, I'd switch away from the language and go back to the music. So I removed that temptation by removing all of the music. It left me with just one option, listen to the language. So 10 months later, I'd listened to all 99 CDs in the German language program, listened to each one 3 times each. I then went to Berlin for a 16-day intensive German course. When I was done, I invited my wife and kids to meet me. We walked around the city. I spoke German to the Germans. They spoke German back to me. My kids were amazed. I mean, I couldn't close their jaws. But you and I, we know, there's actually nothing amazing about what I just done. I made this marginal adjustment to my daily routine, this marginal adjustment to my process. Und jetzt, ich spreche ein bisschen Deutsch. And now I can speak some German. And so in that moment, I'm thinking, it's not supposed to be this easy for a guy like me, an old guy, to learn a new language. You're supposed to have to do that when you're a kid. Yet here I had done it, this marginal adjustment. So what other big, ambitious goals I've been holding on to, putting off until retirement, that I could potentially achieve if I just made a marginal adjustment to my routine? So I started doing it. I earned my auto racing license. I learned how to fly a helicopter, did rock climbing, skydiving. I learned how to fly planes aerobatically. Well, if you're like me, back in 2007, you might have the same goal I had. I was just moving back from London. I was about 25 pounds overweight and out of shape. I wanted to rectify that. So I could go the typical route. You know, I could write a check to a gym I'd never go to. Or I could swear to myself that I will never again eat those foods that I love but are doing all the damage. And I knew that going that route rarely results in the outcome you desire. So I decided to become an active participant. I thought about the habits and passions that I've developed over the course of my life. I thought, can I make just a marginal adjustment to them so that they work in my favor as opposed to against me? And so I did. I've got this habit where I've been walking an hour and a half a day for the last 7 years. And I've got this passion for being in the outdoors. And so that year, I didn't actually set the New Year's resolution to lose 25 pounds. I set a resolution to hike all 33 trails in the front country of Santa Barbara's mountains. And I'd never been on a hike before in my life. But the truth of the matter is, it's not about the 33 trails. You have to break this big, ambitious goal down into these more manageable decisions, types of decisions that need to be made correctly along the way in order to improve the odds of achieving the type of outcome you desire. It's not about even one trail. It's about those tiny little decisions, you know, like when you're sitting at your desk, putting in just a little extra time at the end of the day, or you're lying on your couch and you're clicking through the channels on the remote control or scrolling through your Facebook feed. And in that moment, make the decision to put it down. You go put on your hiking clothes. You go walk outside your front door and you shut it behind you. You walk to your car, you get in your car and you drive to the trailhead. You get out of the car at the trailhead and you take one step. You take 2 steps, 3 steps. Every one of those steps that I've just described is a tiny little decision that needs to be made correctly along the way in order to achieve the ultimate outcome. Now, when I say I want to hike 33 trails in the front country, people think about the decisions at the top of the mountain. That's not what it's about. Because if you don't make the right decision when you're on the couch, there is no decision that occurs at the top of the mountain. So by the end of the year, I had hiked all 33 trails in the front country. I did them a couple of times each. I even did a few in the back country. I lost the 25 pounds, and I capped the year off by doing the hardest half marathon in the world, the Pier. In 2009, I got really ambitious. Ambitious for a guy who still to this day cannot settle down and focus on anything for more than 5 or 10 minutes at a time, and that was to read 50 books. But again, it's not about reading 50 books. It's not even about reading one book. It's not about reading a chapter, a paragraph, a sentence. It's about that decision when you're sitting at your desk at the end of the day, or when you're lying on the couch, or flicking through your Facebook feed, and you put down the phone. You pick up a book and you read one word. If you read one word, you'll read 2 words, 3 words. You'll read a sentence, a paragraph, a page, a chapter, a book. You'll read 10 books, 30 books, 50 books. In 2012, I got really ambitious. I set 24 New Year's resolutions. 12 of them were what I call giving resolutions, where I did 12 charitable things that didn't involve writing a check. But it's not without its failures. I tried to donate blood and they rejected me because I'd lived in the UK. I tried to donate my sperm, they rejected me because I was too old. I tried to donate my hair, and it turns out nobody wants gray hair. So here I was trying to do something to make myself feel good, and it was having the opposite effect. So anyway, I've also had these 12 learning resolutions to learn 12 new skills. When I was done with unicycling, parkour, slacklining, jumping stilts, and drumming, my wife suggested I learn how to knit. And I'll be honest, I wasn't all that passionate about knitting. But one day I'm sitting under this 40-foot tall eucalyptus tree that's 2.6 miles up the Cold Spring Trail in Santa Barbara, and I'm thinking, that tree would look really cool if it were covered in yarn. And so I went home and I Googled this, and it turns out this is a thing people do. It's called yarn bombing. They wrap these public structures with yarn. And the second annual International Yarn Bombing Day was just 82 days away. So for the next 82 days, no matter where I was, if I was in a board meeting, on the trading floor, in an airplane, or in the hospital, I was knitting, one stitch at a time. And 82 days later, I had done my first ever yarn bomb. And the response to it blew me away. So I kept going. With bigger, more ambitious projects that required more engineering skills. And in 2014, I set the goal to wrap 6 massive boulders in Los Padres National Forest at the top of the mountain. But if I was going to pull this off, I'd need help. So at this point, I had a few thousand followers on social media as the Yarn Bomber. And I started getting packages, lots of packages. 388 contributors from 36 countries in all 50 states. In the end, I didn't wrap one massive boulder, I wrapped 18. So I kept going with bigger, more ambitious projects that would require me to work with new materials like fiberglass, wood, and metals, which culminates in a project that is currently at TMC here in Tucson, where I wrap the Children's Hospital. Along the way, I stopped knitting. I never really liked it. But I like crocheting. So I started making these 7-inch granny squares, because that's the standard granny square. And I thought along the way, why am I stopping at 7 inches? I need big stuff. So I started making bigger granny squares. And one day I come home from a business trip and I've got this really large granny. And I went to the website of Guinness. I was curious, what's the world's largest granny square? And it turns out there's no category for it. So I applied, and they rejected me. So I appealed, and they rejected me. I appealed again, and they said, fine. If you make it 10 meters by 10 meters, we'll create a new category, and you will be the Guinness World Record. So for the next 2 years, 7 months, 17 days, 1 stitch at a time, I finally reached more than 500,000 stitches, incorporated more than 30 miles of yarn, and I am now the official Guinness World Record holder for the largest crochet granny square. Along the way, I've garnered an awful lot of attention for my estimates. I've been featured in Newsweek magazine, Art News, which is kind of the Bible for artists. But what I want you to realize when you hear these things, I'm still that C- student. I'm still that kid who can't settle down or focus for more than 5 or 10 minutes at a time. And I remain a guy who possesses no special gift, talent, or skill. All I do is take really big, ambitious projects that people seem to marvel at, break them down to their simplest form, and then just make marginal improvements along the way to improve my odds of achievement. And so the whole reason I'm giving this talk is I'm hoping to inspire several of you to pull some of those ambitious dreams that you have for yourself off the bookshelf and start pursuing them by making that marginal adjustment to your routine. Thank you.
Okay, now that doesn't make you feel as an underachiever. When I first saw this, I went, oh my gosh, I got to get with the program. Actually, I think we all have to get with the program. And I think this is, there's so many lessons here that apply. But, you know, the thing, I think, I've tried to share with people, if you want to have a successful life, you have to have a master plan for your life to figure out how you want to live, how you want to spend your time. So I want you to write on your piece of paper here, when you're going to die. Write it down here. How long are you going to live? When are you going to die? How old are you going to be? What's your goal? Write it down. When are you gonna die? You know what the averages are. 79 for men. It's been going down a couple of times the last couple of years because of obesity. Women, 82. So, you know, are you gonna be average? You're gonna be above average? Now you didn't write anything down. You got anything in your head?
Maybe for religious reasons,
Well, you know, nobody knows how long they're gonna live, right? I mean, we don't know. But there is an old adage. You should plan like you're gonna live forever. You should live like you're gonna die tomorrow. Yeah. So I had to change my master plan. My history, my genetic profile, you know, we are all a combination of 15 different couples. 30 people have contributed to our DNA gene pool. And I don't know whether anybody's ever saw the twins research. You know, when I was going to college the first time, there was this huge controversy about nature versus nurture. You know, that whether heredity versus environment. And there was a very huge program that was done on identical twins that were separated from their parents after World War II. And they got them back together. A lot of them didn't even know they had an identical twin. Some of them went to very wealthy people, some of them not so wealthy. And it was very interesting when they got them back together, you know, many years later. It was amazing. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I mean, they showed up, they looked alike, obviously they're identical. They were dressed alike. They married people that were very much alike. And it was this whole thing about, you know, social economic pressure. So just couldn't really believe it. And so I think genetics do play a part, but I think they've also proved that you can turn genes on, turn genes off. The reason I'm saying this, in order for you to have a great lifestyle, have your master plan before you get into strategic planning, there's 4 dimensions that you have to think about. Health, wealth, relationships, and then what I call talent expression. So number 1 is health. You're not going to be successful unless you're healthy. You can't have a good business unless you're healthy. You can't have a great life unless you're healthy. And there's lots of dimensions on health. There's physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. Now, you can be physically healthy, got a good gene pool, got a great lifestyle, but if you lose your marbles, you know, somewhere along the line, you know, you're not going to remember it anyway. So, but the people around you do. And emotional health, I think, is really important because, you know, you're not going to be happy. You know, our mission here is great joy and wealth for small business owners. It's very difficult to be happy if you're not emotionally mature. And of course, spiritual health, regardless of whether you're religious or spiritual, it's pretty well proven that if you have any addictive behaviors, you have maybe a spiritual issue that you need to address. And that was pretty well proven. I work with a lot of veterans, a lot of them have PTSD. So anyway, health, I think, is really important. So you need to focus on health. And the reason I ask you to write down when you're going to die, death on your shoulder, you will live a better, more conscious life. And so living the way that you want to live, not the way that you thought you were supposed to live, I think is very important to make that change. In our entrepreneurship class, what we try to do is deprogram people. You know, there's always a 9-year-old in our bodies, and a lot of our thoughts and our emotions are really dictated by authority figures in our past, you know, parents, teachers, church, all that stuff. And so I think in order to become prosperous and be happy and be joyful, you know, you're going to have to learn to think for yourself. And so I think health is perfect. So I think in order to do planning, I like to look at what to eliminate first. Elimination is very important. Stephen talked about it. He said, I don't have any discipline. In order to learn German, he had to eliminate the songs on or if you listen to it. So in order for you, if you have this cup, before you can add any goals or objectives, in this bowl right now, you're busy working. You're going to have to cut some stuff out. So elimination is first. And you have to eliminate, it may be food, it may be lifestyle, it may be whatever, but you want to eliminate first. Next you have to do is you have to decide what you're going to keep. Some stuff works. Some of it may need to be revived, renewed, or restored. So if it's working for you, but maybe not working the way you want it to, a worthy goal, a marginal adjustment would be something that would fit that way. And then, of course, there's stuff that you want to add. Now, before I discovered Stephen, he resonates with me because I am a huge proponent of Pareto. You all know Pareto, Italian economist doing work in England, wealth distribution in Italy. And he discovered that 20% of the wealth in Italy, 80% of the wealth is controlled by 20% of the people. That's called the Pareto law. And it's the balance. If you have 100 salespeople, 20 of them will generate 80% of the sales. 80 of them will only generate 20%. Now, marginal adjustment. There is an 80-20 rule in the 20%. So if you want to be a successful company, number one, you have to be a 20% company now and in the future. So whatever space you're working in, your goal is to be at least at 20%. And if you don't know whether you are a 20%er, all you have to do is take your financials, your profit and loss, and your balance sheet, look in the domain and the space that you're working in, and you can make an appointment with Karen Carroll, and she will pull up your financials on BizFinder, and she will compare your company with all the other companies that receive the loan. And you will find out whether you're average, below average, above average, and whether you're at 20%. So if you want to thrive, you have to be at least at 20%. Now, Stephen, he's at 20% of the 20%. He's taken marginal things and did it. Well, before I found him, I thought, well, my health, I had a very interesting, when I had my own consulting practice, my brother's an attorney in Reno. His wife was working for a doctor who created an age management company. And they were friends, my brother and Mark. And he wanted to expand his business model around the United States. So my brother said, you be my brother, and so I got to know him. So anyway, I went to a big convention in Las Vegas about age management. And kind of blew me away. I known about the twins research, but I really didn't understand that European descent, that gene pool, all that stuff's only been around since Columbus got here and took our nightshades back to Europe. But, our whole genetic profile, it takes thousands of years. Well, our current diets and lifestyle, most of what we do, that's only been around a while. So I learned a different thing. So when I ask you when you're going to die, it's pretty well proven that if once you live past the average, you don't get some disease or some car wreck or whatever accident. That with lifestyle, you're going to beat the odds. And but it's pretty well proven that the last 3 years of your life, you're going to spend over 70% of health care. And so when I went to this conference, Ken Dykewald, who wrote a book called The Age Wave 25 years ago, he actually explained that there is a new model. So you don't have to go into decline like we do right now. You can actually flatten that curve out if you're going to decline. But the goal is to be fully functional and mobile at least 2 weeks before you die. So I said, okay, that's a very worthy goal. That's kind of the master plan. So I got to thinking, okay, I started looking at my genetic profile, and I need to do a marginal adjustment. And with my heredity, And the only one that ever really broke the model was my great-grandfather. He lived to be 96. And he had tuberculosis. Moved back east to northwest Kansas. Got hooked up with a wagon trail on Nebraska. And he walked himself out 12 miles a day. Came out here. Sold eyeglasses along the way, made enough money that went to California, took the train back, started the dry goods business, and retired when he was 50. Sold the business. So at 96, all the time that I knew him when I was just a little kid, he smoked 6 White Owls a day. I drank a fifth of Little Granddad a week. And he said that kind of keeps me going. But he was retired for 46 years. He's the only one. Everybody else in my family, they don't make it. So anyway, I said, I'm going to make a marginal adjustment. And in my case, I decided I was going to go on an anti-inflammatory diet.
I thought you were gonna say
More bourbon, yeah. So I discovered, and I share this with everybody, a nutritionist. I don't know about you, but I do shop. I love to shop. And I'll put this up here real quick. And I particularly like to shop at grocery stores. You know, when I go into Costco, I think I am the richest guy. All this choice by gobs and stuff. And so, you know, we're all the same. We're standing in line at the grocery store, and you're looking at all the magazines on the rack. You know, they got them all there. Well, they have these girly magazines. And I'm not talking about Penthouse and Playboy. It's Women's World, Women's First. I buy those. And I buy those because they all have the same business model. How to lose 500 pounds in 3 weeks. And I have a 300-pound hog living in this body, and all I have to do is feed him a little bit and start showing up. And so, just before I found this, I found her, and she's a nutritionist. And I read her little thing, and I bought her book, and I found out that there's some things I could eat and some things I couldn't. And so I made a marginal adjustment, and I eliminated 2 things on my anti-inflammatory diet. Greek yogurt and half in my coffee. Now, obviously, like Stephen, I had to do some exploration and discover those 2 things. I did. Those are the only 2 things that I reduced my inflammation. I went to the doctor, got all my blood tests, and I went back a year later. And the side effect was I lost weight. Those 2 things. Greek yogurt, half. Yeah. Just minor thing. So I share that with everybody because I think you all need some type of health goal. Doesn't have to be dramatic, but then what you want to do is find that marginal adjustment. That 5% is going to make 95%. Okay, let's move to money. Because I think it's very important to have financial goals, and I think it's very important that you think about your personal wealth situation as part of your master plan. And I was raised that you make money, you got to save a little bit. My wife was raised if you have money, you spend. So, you know, I've been taking care of the money, and I've been do that stuff. And just as a sideline, a lot of people do not have longer-term dedicated retirement plans. Like, so if you do have that, that changes this model. If you don't have it, then it's going to be Social Security in your personal savings. And so the numbers are, if you're just going to rely on Social Security, you're going to need a certain amount to maintain a lifestyle. And they say, well, you only need 70, 60, 70, 80% of your normal salary now to retire. That is bogus, because if you take care of your health, you're actually going to spend more money when you retire. You will spend more money because you've got all those pent-up trips. You want to buy that car. You want to, maybe people say, well, I'm going to downsize. They buy a bigger house. You know, taxes. So the number is how much that your net is right now times 10. That's how much you need to have in your kitty. Because when you reach 70 and a half, you're going to have to take the required minimum distributions. You contributed this pre-tax, now they want the tax money. So it's 10. Now, if you have some type of a defined retirement, and besides Social Security, this drops down to like 6 or so. So if you don't have that amount, that's a part of a worthy goal. It should be part of your master plan, and it needs to be included. Now, your business has to be healthy enough to support this. So, ideally, personally, your goal should be spend only 70% of your take home. So, where do you go? 10% you should help underprivileged people who have won the lottery like we did, and then the other 20% you should invest. And like compound, you take care of. Now, in your business, after you pay yourself, your minimum goal pre-tax should be 50. Why 50? You ask. You see, Robert Kiyosaki wrote a little book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And if you've all read that book, most everybody's read it. If you would have followed his advice in 2009, you would be broke because you would leverage from the bill and you'd be broke now. You'd have to start all over. But he did write a book called Cash Flow Quadrant, and it's a very interesting model to think about. We all start out as an employee, and then we become like you, self-employed. We buy our own job. You get tired of working for one idiot, you decide to work for one. Look in the mirror in the morning. So that's what we all do, right? And then the goal eventually is to build a business system. And the reason you want to do that is because if you have that system, you can trade money for freedom. You hire a general manager and they do all the work. And you go to Hawaii. This it is. Great. So the business system, if you're ever going to sell your business, they buy the system. They don't buy you. If you're a general practitioner, if you don't work, you don't get paid, right? Consulting, doctors, whatever. So eventually that. But your goal is to become an investor and let your money work for yourself so you don't have to work. The reason it's important that 15% is that if you follow this, if you take your money as an employee or self-employed, you're going to make 7 to 8% long term, whether you're in the stock market or whether you're in real estate, unless you buy some really cool places. Now, my family's been lucky. My folks bought a house in Lake Tahoe in the 70s, paid $42,000 for it. Where I came from, you could have bought a block for that. But 30 years later, 10 in-laws, Palo Alto, bought a house in the 50s, 30 years later, 12. So you can hit the lottery if you're really good, but you can make 7 to 8% just on your money if you save your money.
So you're saying 15%
Pre-tax.
tax.
Pre-tax.
Tax, but what? The profit of what?
Yeah. Pre-tax law.
Pre-tax. You're going to invest.
15% pre-tax. And the reason I say 15%, if you're an active investor, you can make 10%. If you just let somebody else manage your money, you can make 7 to 8. And if you're serious about it, you can make 12. You have to spend the time to do it. But your business should generate 15% pre-tax. Now, it doesn't have to be 15% if you're living out of your company like what you should, like paying all your medical benefits, buying a car, all that kind of stuff. You have to add that to the care. All right, we'll talk more about money. Now, I always tell our clients, if you're following and you're doing everything you can to maintain your health on all 4 dimensions, in all likelihood, you're going to have to make some decisions about this. But this is really going to affect So, for example, retirement age at my age is 40. Now, if I wait till I'm 70, I can generate 8% guaranteed return on my money. I said, okay, I think I got my goals here on health, and I'm going to live past 82 because that's the break-even point between taking my retirement at 66 versus 70. I got to live to be 82 and a half break even. So this all ties together. It all ties together. But the difference on the guaranteed 8% for 4 years, that's a third more than getting a ticket. Now, you're all too young to do this, well seasoned, so I think about this stuff. And then there's a tax issue. I think it's this number. Used to be 75. Your pre-tax number, what you want to do with the new tax laws bill, stay below this much. And that's the difference between, what's the number? Yeah, you know, 12%. Yeah, 12%. Used to be 15, dropped to 12. You go over this number, what's it go to? 10% more, 22. Yeah. So, if you want to save yourself 10%, don't pay yourself more than this one. Now, but of course, you want to have all your health benefits, car, all of your expenses. So, in order to do this, you got to generate about 125, 130,000. That's the goal. Comes right up here. That's part of the goal. All right. Relationships. This is probably the most important way to have the best year ever and have the best life. Let's assume you're healthy. Let's assume you're managing your money and you know where you are, what you need to know personally and on your business side. Help you all that. But the relationships, what I have found, will really make the difference between just existing, doing well, or doing extremely well. The better your relationship, I'm talking with your spouse, your kids, that's important. But I'm talking about your business relationship. It's really, 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 really important. And how I think about this, and if you're going to create goals around this, we all live as humans, and I call it the 95%. Now, I know you don't talk to yourself. You don't have that chatter going on in your mind like I do all the time. I'm blessed with that. I know you don't do that, but in case it does come up, I would think that we probably think and feel about everything that we do. It's about us, 95%. How do I think about this? How do I feel about this? If you want good relationships, you have to dial that back. And your goal should be 80%. So this goal, be totally mobile until you die. That's my goal. You can see my goal. I think if you're mobile until you die, I think you will have a better life. I see many people that can't do that. So, and if you take it to 80%, there's something that the difference between 85 or 95 and 80% is what I call the third entity. All relationships have what you think about, what the other person thinks about, and the third entity is the relationship. And if you want longer term relationships, which will benefit you personally and your company, you have to invest. That's the big deal. And if you want a good little book, we have an advanced small business management class. We talk about leadership and wealth creation. And we talk about this stuff. There's a little book called workers' compensation. It talks about how to do that. And I've got clients who say it's the most important book they ever read. Because they have a goal about how to improve the relationship. And it does spill over. The better the the relationships are. I've never met anybody that was a millionaire that did 1,000% more profit. They had good relationships with customers, business associates. Some of this has been a disaster. Now, some of your relationships you may have to eliminate because they're not working for you. If they're sucking the energy out of you, if they're not contributing to the third entity, it's probably time to stop. We have businesses all the time. You actually do a proof profile, they have multiple businesses, and they kind of follow this 80-20 rule. 20% of them generate 80% of the revenue. Some of it's exaggerated. 5% of the customers generate. And then we've got some people that have a lot of customers. They don't even break even, lose money. So you either need to raise your price or give them to your competitor. But then try to take them to the bottom. So it's important to look at that. Okay, the last thing is this. Now we're going to talk about planning. This all is a plan to create marginal adjustment goals that are going to have huge leverage on time, your life, to make a difference. I put this talent expression. Planning. Everybody knows how to plan. I'm in Portland, Oregon. I want to go to New York, and I need to be there in 2 months. Yeah, I can make a decision. I can walk, take the train, take the bus, I can hitchhike, I can ride my bicycle, my motorcycle, or I'll fly or drive. So planning is where you are, where you want to go, and those specific steps that you will take to get there. That's called forward planning. Everybody does it. People don't do enough of it. They don't, and it's always, it's been, if you're an Edward Deming fan like I am, he did a PDCA, which is you plan. What am I going to do? You do it. You check to see if it works, and then you adjust it. Well, that wasn't invented by Deming. Invented by Deming, sure, but that planning cycle is kind of a continuous thing like this. It just keeps going like this. Okay, what am I going to do? Where do I want to go? How am I going to get there? So you plan it out, you do it, you see if it works, make your minor adjustments, and you can do the same thing. Now, that's whether it's your master plan. Your master plan should be more like how do you want to spend your life. So there's forward plan. There's also a thing called backward. You look at the end in mind. And I think that is about that to me is by far the best way to plan. It's called idealized design.
Can you repeat that, Rob?
Yeah.
Sound out there.
Yeah. Idealized designs. Backward planning. Backward planning says, this is what I want to accomplish in a future day. Design what you want at a future day. And you start with lifestyle. How do you want to spend your life? Where do you want to live? Who do you want to live with? What kind of work do you want to do? What kind of hobbies do you have? How do you want to be involved in the community? How do you want to give back? It's how you want to spend your life regardless of how long you could be on. That's first. That's your master plan. So, ideal lifestyle. You should be able to articulate in your mind and put on paper what I'm talking about. That's why this is kind of important. If you're not healthy, I saw an interview with Jeff Bezos before he did the divorce. They were asking him, how would you like to be remembered? He says, I want to be remember that the oldest living person on earth. That's such a great job. So, lifestyle is the first thing, how you want to spend your life. The next thing in work is your ideal work day life. How are you going to spend your time 240 days out of 365? You should be able to be very clear about that, and you should definitely apply the 80-20 rule to your work life. You will work less, you will work smarter, you will leverage time, effort, and resources much better if you eliminate what's not working for you, you fix what you want to keep, and then you add these marginal adjustment goals. Ideal work day. Next thing, you want to look at your ideal customer. I want you to do a profile on your customer. This becomes very important in strategic planning. Who is your ideal customer? You should be able to write down on a piece of paper who they are. Demographics. Male, female, couple, company. What's your demographic? The next is psychographic. Why do they buy you? If you ask 3 questions, you want to make sure that these 3 questions are stuck in your customer's mind. So what? Who cares? Why choose you? So what? Who cares? Why should I spend my money and give it to you versus somebody else that's doing business? That's your value proposition, which is created by your market. And that creates your business model. That's how you get rich in America. How you get not only the best year this year, you have your best year for the rest of your life. Because you become a 10 or 15. Because you figured it out. If you know what your ideal customer is, I mean ideal. If you've got customers right now, and you just pick 2 or 3 of them out of there and you say, all right, if I didn't have all the rest of them, I could replicate this one. It would look exactly like this. If you can do that and articulate it and give it a persona, your marketing becomes extremely easy. It becomes very easy for you to make decisions. Go or no go. Do I want more of these? Do I want less of these? Part of the plan. How do you find them? I have a client right now, I can't tell you his name, but he says, you know, I need to build my portfolio. I made a lot of money, but I spent it all. I bought the boat and got bored. Stop. But he said, now I got to catch up. So we worked backwards into this. Okay, that's what his goal was. We worked backward into his business model. And his marginal adjustment was he only needs to get one of his key employees 2 more leads of the ideal customer. Just 2 more leads of his ideal customer, and he will make the necessary money and be able to do that. That's just 2 things. But if you can do this, that's market segmentation. You want more business, you need more leads, you need a conversion strategy, but you need to know who they are and why they're that. And then you have to figure out, so what, who cares what. Yes. Okay. Now, let's talk about this eliminate and keep store thing a little bit. There are some traps that you need to know about. Business is easy if you know what to do and how to do it. What to do and how to do it. So, knowing what not to do is oftentimes more important than what to do. I have a saying, success is the result of good judgment. Good decisions are the result of experience. Experience is the result of bad. I speak experience, lots of experience. I've been terrible. But being a student, I've learned more what not to do than what. Now, this continuous improvement cycle, what you do not want to do is create goals and objectives up here that involve waste, involve scrap. A lot of people climb the ladders. Sometimes you get up on that fourth or fifth rung and you find out that that ladder is leaning on the wrong building. This continued improvement cycle, it's great, but I started working on a project in 2013. We have some Latino clients and contractors that want to get the contract to us. At that time, only less than 5% of them passed. Couldn't believe it. So I started working with the contractor construction board. And so I found out, oh, well, I found the solution. The book that they were using to study out of, the mandatory book, was written in Castilian. There's not a Mexican in the world, or Guatemalan, or Honduran, or anything that speaks Spain. It's like going to China and trying to do business and you speak the Mandarin. That's not the language. That's marginal adjustment. I'm going to fix the book. So I got it. We got it redone and in the proper lingo, and worked hard on it. Continuous improvement. That wasn't the only change. We did a lot of other stuff within the current system. We finally got that pass rate up to 30. Marginal adjustments along the way, continuous improvement. And then we finally figured out the whole system was flawed. So last May, they gave us Clackamas the exclusive 3-year intergovernmental agency agreement to change that, to redesign the system. And the learning that I got out of that is continuously improving a flawed system waste. So you want to make sure that your goals are not around creating more waste and dysfunction in your master plan. Okay, so let's move into, you got your master plan, you've got your 4 dimensions here. Let's talk about strategic planning. Everybody have this? I'm gonna erase it. Picture. That big picture. Yeah. I kind of do.
I would hope so.
Okay, you've got this. I think I'm going to record this, Laura.
Yeah.
No. All right. Dun, dun. By the way, that means spell check. In my mind, I was perfect spell. If that looks a little funny to you, that's why I do spell check. Okay, now let's talk about strategic planning. This is a very worthwhile goal, because if you've already put in your mind who your ideal customer is, this is really important, because what is going to impact you over a 3 to 5 year period that you have control over, it's not so much what happens to you, it's what happens to the customer. If your customers go away, which is a source of money for your company, you're in doo-doo. By the way, if you didn't have the best year ever in 2018, you might want to review your business model. Because your business model is created, like I said, out of your marketing mix, product, services, pricing, distribution, your promotion activities, your processes. That creates your value proposition, so you can answer that. So what? Who cares what you do? If you didn't have 2018, lowest unemployment that the Kentucky Tractor State, low interest rates, comparatively, if you're not doing really well in 2018, you have probably a flawed business model, and you need to figure out some marginal adjustments to improve that. I think I kept a copy of ours. Now, it's easy for me to say that. But we keep track of everything because of our funding partners. SBA, City of Oregon, so I have a scorecard. And this is the stuff we keep track of. And I want you to look over at 2017 on the right-hand side. Long-term clients, counseling hours, and training events. Training events are classes and workshops that we do. That's content. It's kind of like this little class, this little workshop. Like, I'm giving you some content, but in order for it to be practical, you have to take content and put it into context for you to apply to you. So all these metrics are pretty good. Here's the key one right here. 2017, we did 22 business starts. Kind of the goal was 2 a month, so we try to do like 24. So 21, 23, 22. That's it. 118. Marginal adjustment of the system. So if your scorecard doesn't look at this, you want to go back and look at some of the drivers that you have in your business and take a look at. Now, during construction, all of our construction plans, they always prices, people are maxed out. Make a lot of money. Like all of our plans. That's because they perfected the business model. They've gone through this exercise multiple times. Some of our clients have been over. Okay. Now let's talk about this. I've actually searched a lot on different models, and Allison is a strategic planning professional, so she can fill in any gaps after this class. We're only going to talk about this at about 5,000 feet because there are specific classes on each one of these, particularly about the money. Our business clients that kind of figure the money out, figure the drivers out, their ideal, everything. Once they figure that out, and then they know that that their gross margins are good, difference between what they sell for and what they cost to provide it, what their fixed expenses are, whether they sell one thing, how to move back to break-even point, how to bundle and take high gross margin things, put them to the bottom line, take that 15% to 25, 30, 40%. That's how you do it. And don't pay a lot of it out. Okay, so 3 to 5 year look. You will not be successful unless your clients are successful. You will not be successful unless you solve problems for your clients. You will not be successful unless you provide not only what they need, but what they want, and deliver the experience that they expect. Whew. The whole thing about a customer experience thing is dramatic because the rules of the game. How many people do you are Prime members? Or Amazon Prime? Right? Yeah. Did you, any of you quit Prime when they raised it $20? Went from 99 to 119. I've had very large classes when I ask this. And hands go up, drop your hand if you dump them when they raise it $20, they drop your hand. And you wonder what's wrong with them. But you have to compete with that. Great clients came in, we've got 19 centers, so you hear a lot of stories about rural When Walmart moved into rural, devastated. You know who's killing Walmart right now?
Amazon.
Amazon. But brick and mortar, who's killing Walmart? Small town? No. Fastest growing. One of the fastest growing chains in the United States right now. Dollar stores? Bingo. Dollar stores, Dollar General. They are skimming Walmart's fanny. So these large platforms. You know, I thought when Home Depot came in and Lowe's, they just devastated the local hardware store. Ace Hardware, they figured out how to do it for a while. That's the first thing. Okay, let's talk about this. All right, you're looking 3 to 5 years down the road. Some tools to help you look. Some tools to help you look. Association. If you're part of an association, tap into your association. Tap into your chambers of commerce. Yeah. And the old model that still works today, and I'm not saying eliminate it, is SWOT. SWOT. Strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats. So when you look at your environmental scan, you want to look at potential threats to your business model. Potential threats. Let's take one example. Real estate. Real estate. Real estate market's been hot. Gone up what, 23% last 2 or 3 years? Got 130 people moving in the Portland area every day. Put a lot of pressure on rentals and real estate. Now, let me tell you, the party will come to an end. I've had them with it on me a few times. And, you know, the threat in real estate is interest rates, regulation, and stuff like that. But you want to look at the threat of potentially the impact on you. So real estate is an example. Anybody here of Redfin? 1% listing fee. Rex? They're all 2% listing fee. Zillow? Platforms? Kind of shop on your own? Yeah. They're making dramatic changes in how you buy and sell these. Now, strengths. If you've already done this exercise that we talked about, and you know who your customer is, and you've got all of them that you can handle, and your goal should be about 80% capacity. So ideally, the ideal business model is 50% of your revenues come from existing clients, 50% of your revenues come from new clients. That means you are growing of your ideal, but your goal is to actually annualize over 80% capacity of what you can do. I've had a chance to work with quite a few manufacturing companies, and I try to get them to stabilize it. The reason I do that is because I've experienced that a lot of people want to beat the schedule. They don't want to wait 3 weeks. They don't want to wait a month. They don't want to wait 2 weeks. They want a rush job. Yeah. You can charge those people out the snoot. You want to have capacity to do rush jobs. You want to have capacity to do just-in-time work. I've got some clients that actually, they don't have any lead time. They don't have any inventory. It comes in and they do the work right then. And they charge dramatically. One customer that does a lot of printing for some big guys in town, they never plan more than 2 weeks out. He said, I need it in 3 days. No problem. 30% profit increase. By the way, that all flows. So you go to 80 to 100%, And if you're working 410s, they just work them on Friday and you pay overtime. Guess what else you can do? You can actually go to 120%. You can actually deliver for short periods of time 40% more than what your system is. Good rule. Okay, so you want to look at threats and you want to know what your real strengths are. And here's the first question you want to ask yourself. What is the weakness in my strength? What is the weakness in my strength? You've already addressed the marketplace. So what? Who cares? Why choose you? Why should I spend money on you and your service, your experience? What's your weakness in your strength? If you can identify that, you can create a worthy goal, make some marginal adjustments, bring that up. Now, if you're working in a space where you've got a lot of competitors, like everybody does, you want to look at who's getting the business. Find out what their strengths are. Go through the same analysis and find the weakness in their strength. Stab them in the heart. Get them. Take their customers away from them and bring them into your fold. Part of your herd. You can spend some time on this and you can have a lot of fun. This is the creating part of this talent expression. See, humans are most happy when they're creating and achieving and growing and contributing, have great relationships, giving back to the community. Life is joyful. And there's nothing more joyful than kicking your competitor's ass. But that's the game of this. Your job is to create happy, is to find, acquire, and keep happy, satisfied in this.
I'm sorry, I don't like the 100%.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, good competition. Sure. Right. I mean, there's enough for everyone.
There's enough for it.
Yeah.
You know, the goal is to find where their strengths, where their weaknesses are in their strengths, and not necessarily steal their customers, but apply that to the new customers that are out there for that same service or that same product.
I don't disagree. And if you find the ideal customer, like that, and let's say you don't have enough of them, and they're going someplace else because the value proposition is different, then you're right. You need to change your business model and your value proposition that makes you as appealing or more appealing.
You mentioned real estate. I picked it up 2 days ago. The trend is Photoshop. Take the wall out, swimming pool. And in the advertising.
Oh, in the advertising.
Take the wall out. With the swimming pool in the picture.
That's the idea.
That's the future. That's the trend.
That's the future. Okay. Now, let's talk about weakness. If you have a sustainable business, you've got a small time like you obviously have overcome any weakness you have to maintain your customer. Yeah. You know your market, you know your niche, and I know you made some migration, you made some marginal adjustments, which made some changes to stay relevant. I think the key word about answering those questions, so what, who cares, what you do, is relevancy. I think that is, and it's not the relevancy that you think, it's the relevancy with your customer. Now, here's what I have found. You look 3 to 5 years down the pipe, the demographics and the psychographics of your future business are changing rather dramatically. I think. Everybody we've talked to, we've raised a couple of millennials and Gen X. They're what is important to them is not that much different than what's important to us, but how they go about it is different. And that's what you want to be looking at. So it's not so much if you got a stable business right now, like a lot of you do, that's okay. I think what you want to do is make sure that you're finger on the pulse of your future buyers. And that's really your opportunity. Now, that works really well. So you're looking at an environmental scan, strengths, weakness, opportunity. The next is, this is my favorite model. PEST acronym. PEST. 3 PEST to address your environmental scan is the most relevant for our times right now. Political. I'll go through these real quick. Until just recently, whatever happened on the political side of the scheme really didn't have much impact on us. I don't care if you're a Republican, a Democrat, right wing, left wing, middle wing, whatever. The political stuff really didn't have much impact. If you're not growing soybeans, corn, where it has an impact to you is on the state level. And if you want to know more about what the upcoming laws are in this state that are going to have a negative or a positive impact on you, I would say mostly negative, Laura. You need to join the Chamber of Commerce and you need to get out. Because the train's coming. You've got a majority in the House and the Senate. Basically. Some of it's bad. Yeah. Well, bad for your future. It takes a while. So economic. Right now, it's great economic. Now we talked about this with Bill. All right, you don't know what's going to happen. I will tell you, I don't think it's going to go up. There is going to be a pullback. How severe it's going to be, nobody knows. Nobody knows when. Probably won't happen this year. It's already slowed down in construction a little bit. But definitely 2020 is on the horizon. But I don't think it's going to be that dramatic. So what I suggest to my clients, create 3 scenarios. 3 scenarios. Fix your business model and your customer experience right now based upon existing. Create a scenario that you could lose 30% of your revenues in the next 3 to 5 years. I don't think it'll be worse than 30%. The third one, the third scenario, what marginal adjustments and goals can I put into place which I can add, and create more than what I'm doing? So 3 scenarios. And take a look at that, and take a look at the drivers behind that on what you do. Now the social, that is more like culture. Just think of culture. We're talking about that. Ed came in and said, hey, my kid's got a side hustle. I said, what's a side hustle? Campbell, you never heard of a side hustle? Holy cow. Well, I've got curriculum now how to develop a side hustle because my house is bad. Everybody needs a side hustle. Even if you have an existing business, you need a side hustle. You need to figure out what products and services that you can lump on and add to your existing portfolio. If you're a consultant, look at products. Allison and I talked about that. Look at something that's going to make you money while you sleep. That's a worthy goal. Spend some time on that. Okay, and here's the thing with technology. You need a personal platform to do business. You need a platform to compete in whatever domain that your space is. That will make you more efficient, and more effective. The reason people don't lower their hand when the Amazon raises it $20 is the convenience. I'm not fighting that traffic on 205 going to the mall and do that. Unless you like to shop.
I just read something about Best Buy and how they turn it around and compete against Amazon because 5 years ago Amazon started to erode and Best Buy basically was becoming a showroom, not a buy room. Okay, people weren't buying; they were coming in to look. And so the CEO, new CEO came in, and he said, "Our strengths are in our people. we gotta go find out more people. So he started going out and hanging out and actually working in the stores, and then he realized what he needs to do. So he restored an employee discount program. He did a number of things associated with his employees so that now everyone wants to work with that spot. Then he said, we're gonna implement this price match thing. So anything, if they're coming in and they're looking at something, you tell them that you have the opportunity to buy this at whatever price that you're gonna get out there, but you can get it today. Right here, because I got it right here.
Yeah.
Instead of having it shipped in and having to deal with all that. And by the way, you can hire our key guys or our setup guys and they'll come set it up. Put the thing on the wall and it'll be there and you can sit down in an hour, you'll be going like this. So I mean, it's just been a huge killer, and they're just, Best Buy has recovered because of a different model and went mainly to his people.
And that's kind of tying all through. Why? I have people all the time, so I can't find people. I know unemployment's rate, there's a huge number of structurally unemployed that have not kept up with technology, skills, and that's and but I asked him how much you paying. I'm not paying. Nobody. One paying. Can't do it. That's not true. They just never thought about how to do it. Well, the case studies we use on advanced yeah. The company that was doing $100 million, Japan, eating directly with China. Same space, different boards. Out of that $100 million, they were losing $10 million. In 3 years, they were making $10 million. To spread $20 million in 3 years. They paid their people 17 times. There are models. So the technology thing is huge. And it's not so much how it's going to impact you and the company, it's going to impact how your customers. That's what you want. One thing I've got to do some research. My longer term strategic plan, master plan, is to help develop a platform for small business, brick and mortar, local business buyers, and compete on the same level. Full convenience thing, big deal. There's a reason. What can happen here, Ed, on the deal, is that Amazon spent over $7 billion losing money on shipping. I just saw the numbers 2 weeks ago. 40% of online sales involved return. 2 years ago, my wife's looking for shoes. I said, why don't you go to Zappos? Don't buy it. My wife said, I will never buy shoes online, ever, because I don't know whether they're going to fit and I don't know how they look. Today, I have a steady stream of UPS, FedEx, and box. Don't know what size, 4 or 2. Buy the one that fits, it's send the other one back. This whole shipping, free shipping, it's gonna, most people really doing well on that is UPS, parcel service, and some kind. There's a reason Amazon has built over 200 additional distributions. There's a reason they bought those. They're all about eating with. I gotta have it right. Went a little over, started a little late. Thanks for coming. Any questions? Construction? You do any government work? Good. Get ready to do more.
Comments that paying prevailing wage, $53 an hour, and so
Yeah.
it's a huge problem.
Yeah, huge problem. There's another huge problem on the horizon called Hospital 2490, I can't remember. That will restrict your ability to hire someone.
Will prevent, basically they're adding a question that their service matches the industry. I'll use on here. There's no difference between the organization and the services they offer. So the bill would, if they answer no, the way the question is structured, and it's additional question added to the contract. If they answer no, but they offer no other service that differentiates themselves from their contracting, then that contracting company has to actually